The world is full of mysterious events and strange discoveries that have never been solved. Some of these unexplained mysteries have left us baffled for centuries, leaving us no closer to uncovering the actual truth behind them. Number 5. In 1680, John Danforth, who had just graduated from Harvard, happened upon a boulder in what was then known as the town of Dighton, Massachusetts. He noticed that it contained strange carvings, of which he made a drawing. That same drawing is now held at the British Museum, and it shows only the uppermost section of the carvings that are actually found on the rock. It is believed that at the time, the lower section was covered with water. The drawings were studied, but their meaning and origin could not be determined, and ever since then, it has remained an unexplained mystery. Danforth believed that the drawings were made by Native Americans, and that they told the story of a battle with seafarers who had arrived in the area. Theologian Ezra Stiles has theorized that the drawings were left on the rock by ancient Phoenicians, while others have posited that they were the work of visitors from Carthage. A Danish historian called Carl Christian believes that the rock was carved by Vikings, but other theorists believe that the carvings are Portuguese in origin, while many others claim it to be proof of extraterrestrials that visited the area. In 1963, the 40-ton rock was removed during construction of a dam on the river, and it is now kept at a small museum in the Dighton State Park. The fact that the rock is now more easily accessible has made little difference, and despite the best efforts of archaeologists, scholars, and students of New England Native American tribes, its interpretation remains elusive. Number 4. On the 24th of August, 1982, Shelly Diane Lilly, a 19-year-old woman from Pennsylvania, was finishing her shift at a diner where she worked as a waitress with her mother. At around 11 p.m., she left the restaurant and got into the car that she'd borrowed from her stepfather, a mint green, two-door Chevy Impala, which she'd parked across the street from the diner. She had made plans with a friend to meet up at the end of her shift, but she never made it to the rendezvous. When she didn't return home either, her stepfather reported her missing, but her whereabouts remain an unexplained mystery. Shelly's mother would later tell police that she saw a man who'd been at the diner and the restaurant, leaving at around the same time that Shelly did. Other witnesses reported seeing the same man talking to her outside the diner about a half an hour before her shift ended. He is described as being between 5'10" and 6 feet tall, with an athletic build. The man is not considered a suspect in her disappearance, but police believe he may have crucial information about Shelly after she left the restaurant. Police immediately assumed that foul play was involved, as she had a 2-year-old daughter at home who she would never abandon. There have been many leads in the case, most coming from California and Minnesota, but none proved fruitful. The FBI interviewed Shelly's coworkers, family, friends, and former boyfriends, and performed polygraph tests on all of them, but with no new leads as they were all ruled out as suspects. No further trace of Shelly has ever been found, and her stepfather's car has never been recovered. The FBI would conclude their investigation in October of 1984 with no results, though her case remains open, and investigators in Upper Darby remain hopeful that they will be able to solve the mystery of Shelly's disappearance one day. Number 3. In 1975, in Nova Scotia, Canada, a teenage boy living on the mainland near Oak Island spotted something strange happening on the island. he noticed strange lights in the area and called two of his friends, and the three set out to investigate. They rode over to the island, and in a small cluster of trees, they found an area of soil, about 13 feet in diameter, had been disturbed as the soil was loose and young trees had begun to grow. They started to dig, and about 2 feet down, they found a circle of stones lining the outside of a pit. 8 feet further down, they discovered that a wooden platform had been placed in the ground about another 20 feet down. They couldn't find anything else, but in the 1800s, the Onslow Company decided to excavate the site. As they uncovered more of the soil, they found that a platform had been constructed at every 10 feet, some covered with putty, coconut fibers, or charcoal. It should be noted that coconuts didn't grow in the area at the time, and the nearest coconut trees were 900 miles away. At 90 feet, however, they discovered a strange rectangular stone with unusual markings. Many people believed that the markings were a type of treasure map, and in the 1860s, a professor of languages determined that the markings read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. They kept digging, and at 98 feet, they struck something that sounded like a hollow container. They called the dig off for the night and returned in the morning, only to find that the pit had been filled with 60 feet of water. They believed that they'd triggered a booby trap, and their efforts ended there. In 1849, another crew attempted an excavation. They bailed out all of the water and drilled into the hollow container, hitting sections of wood and loose metal, leading them to believe that they were about to unearth a treasure chest. But before they could gain access to the container, the bottom of the pit collapsed and the pit was flooded once again. It was found that the pit was connected to a flood tunnel, and the men attempted to drain it, but to no avail. In the 1860s, a steam-powered pump was used to try and drain the pit, but it exploded and ended the life of one man. And so started the legend of the Oak Island curse. In 1897, a man fell into the pit and lost his life, and 4 more people would succumb to the fumes in 1965. A crew used cameras and a monitor to explore the pit in 1975, and they claimed to have seen a wooden chest at the bottom, though the incident was never recorded. In the years that followed, a lead cross, believed to have belonged to the Knights Templar, has been discovered, along with bone fragments, and a U-shaped wooden structure. Despite many years of digging and speculation, the money pit of Oak Island remains an unsolved mystery. Number 2. On the 11th of August, 2013, theater technician Tiffany Daniels, a 25-year-old woman from Pensacola, Florida, attended a farewell breakfast that was held in honor of her boyfriend, who was relocating to Texas after being accepted into the University of Texas's robotics program. He wanted her to move to Austin with him, but Tiffany felt that she wasn't ready to leave Pensacola and made plans to visit him in the future. That night, Tiffany and Gary Nichols, a 54-year-old man who was sharing her house, watched the film Monty Python and the Holy Grail, since the theater department where Tiffany worked was preparing for the production of a musical called Spam-A-Lot, which was based on the film. At work the following day, Tiffany asked her supervisor if she could leave early and have a few days off. He agreed, and she left at 4:43 p.m. Since then, no trace of her has ever been found. The following evening, when she hadn't returned home, Nichols contacted Tiffany's parents via Facebook. Her mother contacted all of her friends, but they had not seen her. She contacted police and reported Tiffany missing at the end of that week, though Escambia County Police seemed disinterested. She contacted Pensacola Police instead, and they searched Tiffany's house. They found nothing unusual, and her boyfriend was contacted, but they found that he'd last contacted her days before. 8 days after her disappearance, Tiffany's car was found by a jogger in Pensacola Beach. Inside was her phone, bicycle, purse, wallet, clothes, paintings, a jug of water, and a jar of peanut butter. 2 fingerprints were lifted, but no match was found. 2 residents of a nearby condominium stated that they'd seen a man getting out of the car earlier that day before leaving the area. In 2015, another witness described a shirtless man in his 30s wearing red shorts opening the tailgate of the car. He said he remembered the event since the car had been parked strangely, facing oncoming traffic in a wildlife reservation area. Tiffany's case remains an unexplained mystery, and she has never been found. Number 1. The unexplained mystery of 20-year-old Don Decker begins in Pennsylvania on the 24th of February, 1983. His grandfather, James Kishba, had just passed away while Don was doing time at the Monroe County Correctional Facility, and he was granted a few days of compassionate leave to attend the funeral and to be with his family. During his leave, he was invited to stay with family friends, Bob and Jeannie Kiefer, in their rental house in Stroudsburg. After spending some time catching up, Don headed upstairs to get ready for dinner when he started to feel strange. He told his friends that he was cold and seemed to be disoriented and confused. Before long, he fell into a trance-like state and would afterwards describe having a vision in which an older man wearing a crown appeared to him. Soon after, he would discover scratch marks on his arms. His friends became extremely concerned, and when they questioned him further, he claimed that the scratches had been made by Satan. It was then that they noticed water dripping from the ceiling and walls in the living room. The Kiefers contacted their landlord, Ron Van Wy, and told him about the leak. He went to the house immediately but could find no source for the leak, as there were no water pipes in the area where the drips were coming from, but they kept getting worse. They then realized that Don was in a trance, and while Ron phoned his wife, Romaine, to tell her what was happening, the Kiefers phoned the police. Upon entering the house, patrolman Richard Wolbert very quickly found himself drenched in water from the dripping ceiling. He would describe standing inside the front door, where he saw a droplet of water floating horizontally between him and the house residents in the adjoining room. Having no explanation, he left and filed a police report with the police chief. The Kiefers decided to take Don out of the house to a restaurant across the road, and as soon as he stepped outside, the dripping stopped. They reached the restaurant and stepped inside, only for the dripping to start again. When the restaurant owner saw what was happening, she suspected that Don was possessed and placed a crucifix on his skin. He immediately pulled away, and they noted that his skin had been burned. The group returned to the house where Van Wy and his wife were waiting, and as soon as Don entered, the drip started once again. Officers would return to the house the next day and report that they witnessed Don being lifted into the air and thrown against a wall by an unseen force. They saw 3 scratch marks on the side of his neck, and to this day, no explanation has been found. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.